What's up, fantasy football fans? Welcome to week 2 of the Rockin Renegades Fantasy Football Talk and Podcast. I'm your host, Ralph, and we're going to tickle your fancy with some fantasy football talk. Welcome, my co-host, the guru of the gridiron, John. How you doing, man?
Ralph, how are you, man? Hey, I'm going to do the dirty bird, man. I got the small Anderson jersey, man. I'm ready to go. Week two. Let's do it.
Turn around. Let's see the back of that jersey. Very nice. Very nice.
And bust out the old school, man.
That's great, man. So, hey, John, today the sponsor for this week is Gorman's Pub, Route 51. A great place to go and hang out with your friends, get a few brews. Give them a call, 412-882-7550. They have karaoke for your singers, every Saturday night. And it's a nice bar, nice relaxing place to go grab a few drinks. And it's 3301 Salmo Run Boulevard on Route 51. You ever been down there, John?
I haven't, but man, karaoke drinks, you can't do any better than that, man.
I'm telling you, sounds like a good time on a Saturday night, huh? I'll tell you,
Funhouse show, but man, it's close.
It's a Funhouse is always you always pay for a Funhouse show Sunday morning though. And speaking of some Sunday morning hangovers, how about some of those games this weekend, huh?
Well, we saw some crazy ones this weekend. I mean, we saw some things that we didn't expect. We saw some teams really just lay flat.
It looks like some of your favorite players this week were at a Saturday Funhouse show that they had the hangover Saturday morning. But before we talk about the bad, John, let's talk about the good. So we said that we were going to start week by week. Your Fast Lane Player of the Week. It's your call, John. It's your dig.
Fast Lane Player of the Week. Fast Lane Coffee, a brand that's close to my heart, very close to my heart. I got it right here. Delicious, but man, our Fast Lane Player of the Week is none other than the man, Josh Allen. 33 of 46 for 394, 2 TDs passing, 2 rushing touchdowns. And I'll tell you what, Ralph, I think the thing that I like the best about Josh this week is the role he took as a leader. This guy didn't panic. I mean, he could have just, throw in the towel. And we saw that, over the last few years with Buffalo in some of these big games, with
choke.
Bad turnovers, right. But
Josh,
and
here's the thing. We can always go out and say, we all know Allen could, pretty much put up 4 touchdowns any week. But to do it against the Ravens and the Ravens defense and, the come on at the end of the game, I mean, it was one hell of a game to watch. I'll tell you that. But, yeah, I agree. Allen, man, 33 for 46 and, spreading the ball around. It seems like everybody was getting the love, huh?
It was nice to see that too. And when you watch a game like that with those 2 great quarterbacks, I mean, these guys are the top 2 players in the NFL. I mean, you could say that. You could definitely say that. You could consider that. But, this is the kind of game we expected, to watch. And man, it was entertaining as hell. I loved it.
It sure was. The thing with Josh Allen is watching him toss that ball around and spread that ball around. It makes it kind of tough on, if you want a receiver, to pick and the pair with him. If you're one of the guys that you want to stack a team with, Buffalo, it's kind of tough to do that with Allen. He's seen the first touchdown with the Knox, and you can spread the ball around to Coleman and Palmer now that they signed, that they brought on this year. It's Josh is the man. I don't know what else I can say.
When you talk about that game, you talk about Josh Allen, and how about the ageless one, Derrick Henry? I mean, this guy's he's an alien. I'll tell you what.
2 touchdowns from Henry, and let's not. I mean, Lamar Jackson, he didn't throw for a ton of yards, but still played a great game himself.
He did. I think you're starting to see, all the questions that we had about Josh Allen in the early days. I think you're starting Lamar Jackson. Yeah, you're starting to see the pocket passer now, the guy that has the confidence, in his arm, and Zay Flowers had a great game too. I was really surprised to see them uses him as much, which was
the one I was kind of disappointed when, and we'll start talking about some of these guys this week, was Mark Andrews. 1 catch for him. It's especially with Isaiah Likely out in the game that they were playing, or how they were playing the game. It was I expected to see more out of Andrews. Kind of left a dud, there. I don't know what to expect from him. And now remember too, last year he started off really slow too.
That's right.
But then, his last 9 games, he had a touchdown in just about every game of his last 9. So, are we seeing this being, replicated from last year, or do you think that this is the downhill spiral of Mark Andrews?
It could be that playoff hangover too. When you drop a
True.
pass like that, but like you said, Ralph, this guy, you remember week 1 of last year, KC and Isaiah Likely had that huge game. I had him on my fantasy team in our league, and he just did nothing but lay duds the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So Mark Andrews, yeah, I see a comeback this week. I see them getting him into the offense a little bit more. You're not going to see the Ravens come in flat this week. I mean, it came in solid last week. That was just a great game by the Bills, and really both teams. If it wasn't for Henry's fumble, late in that game, that's a different story.
Which you never see. I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't even imagine how many touches he went without, coughing a ball up. I mean, that's unusual to see out of Henry. Now, before we go through our other duds this week, do you want to do a few, a few starts and sits? And before we do that, everybody that's out there, if you're listening, you have any fantasy football questions, starts, sits, who to play, who to pick up, the waiver wire. I mean, our waiver wires are getting, fairly short. We could go over some of that too if you guys have any questions. But let's look through a couple players to start and sit. What do you got for me this week, John? Who do you want to start?
I'll tell you what. I was looking at this list, and the guy that I'm going to start this week had a very, very impressive game on Monday night. Was Jordan Mason. I mean, you didn't really expect that. You thought that you were going to see a lot of Aaron Jones, but I saw this guy hitting the hole hard. I mean, just every single run was like he was shot out of a cannon. Very impressive. I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of the mix here, and seeing this guy, definitely get some goal line carries.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk at the beginning of the year too about with them bringing in Mason and how they were going to split carries of a 1A and 1B with him and Jones. Jones did, he did get some receptions, so his numbers don't look as bad as they could have been. But yeah, I like the Jordan Mason start too. I'm going to stick with a running back too for a start this week, but I'm going to go with Washington. With Austin Eckler, being banged up and them not having, much more to go with, Bill Krosky-Merritt is my start of the week.
Good pick.
The guy's starting to come on. I think the second weekend, like I said, if Eckler does sit, he's going to see a healthy, workload and, a lot of Debo being mixed in on that too. But I'm going to go with Krosky-Merritt as my running back start of the week.
I think it's a great pick too, and it's a, it's a national game. It's going to be on a spotlight. You're going to see. I think you're going to see a lot of the Commanders this year. I was really impressed with what they did last year. You thought that young team, and and even coming into this year with the question marks, with McLaurin, signing late, we didn't know what we were going to see, and we didn't know what Debo we were going to see either.
But that's true. I mean, Debo was a man on fire, right?
He was. That's the Debo of old, man. I'll tell you what.
He looked good. So, who are we sitting this week, John?
Whew, that's a good one, Ralph. I was analyzing some of this. I think the guy that I'm going to sit this week, this is tough. I was really surprised, and I think it's going to be Travis Etienne.
Wow! After that week, and we can talk about too the trade of Tank getting traded off to Philly, and I think a lot of that they're not saying it, but I think with Tank going, a lot of that has to do with Will Shipley being banged up with the busted up ribs. So right. you think Etienne is going to he's going to flop this week after that big week, huh?
I don't even think so much the flop. I think Cincinnati, the way they played last week, I think that, the way they played against the Browns, that wasn't the team that we expected to see. I mean, offensively, obviously, but I think that defense comes in hungry. I think you're going to see, I think that's going to be the guy that they need to shut down. I think they're going to key on him. They're going to make Trevor Lawrence beat him. So I think that's the reason that I'm picking it. Not so much that Etienne isn't an excellent player in this league. He gave us something that we didn't think we were going to see last week. We were really question marking this guy, but I think this is the week that I would sit him if I had him on my roster.
It's probably, I don't know, probably a good sit maybe if I'm not a believer in the Bengals defense, but
Right.
good choice. So I was actually going to go with Ramondre Stevenson this week as a sit, but with Henderson looking to be getting more and more touches, I think I'm going to switch it up on you, John. I think the guy I'm sitting this week, I think it's going to be Kenneth Walker. Going against Pitt,
good sit.
Pitt put giving up 30-some points, and Tomlin, defensive-minded coach, let's just flop against the Jets, right? They got lucky to get that win this week.
They did.
But I think he should light a fire under their ass. I think the defense is going to show up this week against Seattle. I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker. Now, Walker didn't look so good against the 49ers. So, Charbonnet getting – plus with Charbonnet getting in there, getting more and more touches off of Kenneth Walker, I think Walker's it's a guy you probably want to steer away from this week.
We saw that the last couple of years out of Charbonnet. I mean, this guy runs, like he's, like his life depends on it. And I think that's one thing you see every week from him. He's consistent, and I don't even think he's just going to, steal touches. I think he's going to steal a starting job.
Yeah, he's consistent when he's healthy.
Right.
We've seen Charbonnet being banged up a lot the last 2 seasons. I guess this is his 3rd season, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So if you get a healthy Charbonnet, I think you're going to see, like you said, Walker losing touches. Hey, again, John, our sponsor, Gorman's Bar, 3301. It's down on Route 51. For those of you in the South Hills familiar with it, stop down Gorman's, grab a drink, tell them Ralph sent you, and go down and play some pool. Great atmosphere, sit down, relax. And if you're a karaoke, if you're a singer, go do some karaoke on a Saturday night.
Nothing wrong with that.
So, John, fantasy football, it's about rights, it's about wrongs, it's about ups, it's about downs, and it's about, some of the new people, and it's about, oh my God, my team's flopping, do you panic? So, something to remember, for those of you that had your stars and they flopped this week, Burrow, Chase, Gene said, sat Rodgers and played Burrow. Should I sit Burrow? The answer is no.
No.
You pick these players. They're your starters. They're the people that you stick with. Burrow is going to throw 40 touchdowns this year. It's they come out. Chase is not going to only have 1 or 2 catches. This could be the week that they both blow up. Chase could get 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. Burrow throws. You don't sit your starters. You don't sit Joe Burrow. Do not panic yet. Now, if you were asking me if Cincy's D, sure, you could panic on a D, but this offense is too good to even chase away from.
Agree.
And what Gene said, Rodgers looked great, but Rodgers also had something to prove. He wanted to go in there. He wanted to hang that on the Jets. He wanted to show them who he was. So he had something to play for. I think you're going to see a little regression back from Rodgers this week to the regular, 42, 43-year-old, Aaron Rodgers that we all know and love, or we've come to know and love the last couple of years. But for you, Burrow and Chase owners, don't panic. And I think you're even going to see a nice game from T. Higgins this week. I think you're going to see them open it up. I think Burrow is, I think they got their ass chewed out after that game. So you're gonna see a different team this week.
I'd start all my Bengals players this week. I mean, they're going to put a 40 burger up on them. I don't see them being flat. So Gene, definitely never sit Burrow. He's your guy all the time. I mean, even if Chase would be out, say, I mean, when you got Higgins and you got guys like Jasicki and I don't even know how to say the guy's name. It's how's he say it, Ralph? Yavicius. But anyway, any of those guys. I mean, just that's a good offense. That's an excellent quarterback right there. You're looking at top tier guy. Rodgers. In the beginning of that game, they got sacked on the first play.
Right.
So we were thinking, man, are we going to see that Steelers O-line of old and see the same thing? But I was impressed with the way that Rodgers handled himself. Spread the ball around. Excellent job. I mean, excellent job out of that offense.
And for those of you Steeler fans, they're looking for an ad this week. Look, check out your waiver wire. Calvin Austin being out there. Austin's looking like he's going to step up. He's going to be the number 2 receiver here. If Rodgers does get the chance to open it up and, Metcalf is covered, or Metcalf has the drops or runs the wrong route like he normally does, I mean, Austin might be your guy to actually look to pick up this week if you're looking for somebody.
Agree.
Yeah, it's been an odd week, John.
It has, bro.
In when we talk about flops, we say for most of your starters, don't panic. But let's look into Miami. Is it time to panic? I mean, I know it's the first week, and God, was Tua bad. Hill was pretty bad last year. I don't want to say pretty bad, but he was banged up. He was hurt. He's
Right.
coming up on the worst side of 30. Is he losing a step? Is he still running like the cheetah? It looks like no to me. But it might be time. It might be time to throw in a towel in Miami. Now, A-Chain, he saved his day by getting that touchdown. But they were all bad. Jalen Waddle was bad. And here's a good question. Over under 6 wins on Miami this year, John.
I'll tell you what, if you looked at that performance last week, I'd say under 3 wins. I mean, they did nothing right. I mean, they were dominated in all 3 phases. And remember, this is against Daniel Jones, what this team did. I mean, they couldn't protect Tua. They look totally lost. I don't even know what the was there even a game plan in this game? And you saw Hill, throwing tantrums on the sidelines. If that's the first week, I mean, are they going to be able to get this together?
The thing with Hill too, you see it on the sidelines. I mean, he has a lot going on. It sounds like in his personal life. If you follow those who follow TMZ, it sounds like
Right.
his ex-wife is taking him and filing, domestic abuse, charges against him. And now the NFL are starting to look into this. For those of you that have Hill, you might want to worry, or might want to, check the waiver wire to see what's out there, because there's a chance if the NFL if they do get involved with this, he's going to get suspended.
Right.
If you can, I mean, if you find a taker, I mean, you could look to move Hill, because like I said, if you're in a dynasty league, it might be, or if you're in a keepers league, it might be a good time to move Hill if you can find somebody looking to take him.
That's right.
But looking to move Hill, I see all the things in the papers. The Steelers are interested in Hill, and he's not coming to Pittsburgh.
No.
The Steelers they're not gonna take that. They're not gonna take on a guy it's just not gonna happen. I mean,
you and I know you and I we got into some chats. I mean, especially last year. But when you see these people post things like Tyreek Hill coming to Pittsburgh, and Cooper Kupp was coming here, and Joe Montana, and it's amazing all these years, and they bring up guys from the grave that are coming here, and it's not happening, folks. If you're, I agree with Ralph. You got Hill.
They dug Aaron Rodgers out of the grave to bring him here, John. So you never know, right?
Hey, he lives close to you, man. You better.
He does. He's a quarter of a mile away from me. Aaron, if you're watching this, man, come on down. We'll drink some whiskey, and we'll talk about the Steelers, and we can bet the over and under of how many weeks it's going to be until you blow up on Tomlin.
That's it.
But
That's some insight that he needs, man. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, no doubt.
Especially from you.
Um, yeah. So any pickups? While we still got about 8 minutes here, John. If you're a guy that's say you have somebody that got hurt this week, um, you're looking to waiver wire. You got a tight ends. Basically, Brock Bowers got hurt. He's going to be out for a little bit. Where do you look at for a tight end? There was a rookie that had a real nice week for Cleveland there. Is that somewhere you look? Would you think he's going to get more? I mean, I know it's just the first week, but do you think he's going to get more receptions? Over Njoku there in Cleveland.
I think that's something that remains to be seen. I think you need to see another couple of weeks out of that before you take that step, because Njoku obviously is the guy there. He's one of the people that we bet on as far as tight ends. And I'm telling you, if you look at the waiver wire, one of the guys that's hanging out there a lot is Zach Ertz.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really surprised to see that. I think he's he's one of Daniel's go-to guys. I think you're going to see a little bit of that this week, obviously.
He
And
showed
pick
it
up
last year too.
That's right. That's right.
He showed that last year as being a nice guy. I seen it last year that usually your rookie quarterback always looks to the tight end. But that's it. Farron is the guy's name. Just skip my mind. But it might be Farron in Cleveland might be a guy you spend a couple points on to bring him on. Just in case. I mean, we all know Njoku's there. We all know Njoku's a good blocking tight end. Maybe excuse me, Flacco coming out, and he's the gunslinger. He wants to get that ball in the air 30 times a week. Maybe it's another weapon. They have Tillman there, they have Judy there, but maybe they want to run two tight end sets. You never know. It might be a good guy to try. One other guy I want to bring up, John, is if he's in a waiver wire. If you're looking for a possible guy that might get a few touches a week, and I would look to Indy. That DJ Gibbons with Taylor always being banged up. The last couple of years, he's always going to miss time. And
That's
you look what happened when Taylor went down last year or the year before. I can't remember exactly what it was when they had Zach Moss. You could easily take Taylor out, plug Zach Moss in, and he was a good starter. So if you're looking for a good backup, somebody spend a point or two on, just in case to sit on your bench. If you need a good spot start, maybe look toward Indy.
Yeah, because Taylor, you're right. I mean, he's a workhorse. Guy gets a ton of carries. I mean, he's used in a passing game as well, so he's going to be. And you're right. The older the running back gets, more workload they take. Unless they're Derrick Henry, they're going to take a beating.
The guy's unbelievable, man. It's will Henry ever quit? Is he going to run until he's 40? I don't know. He really is. Now, another guy I want to talk about, John, is you look at Cleveland. You got that Dylan Sampson that's they've been giving the ball to. Ford looks like he's going to be on the outs,
right?
And also this week, Quinshon Judkins just signed. So, just so you guys know, that's probably a guy on your waiver wire. If you look for Quinshon Judkins, he's probably going to be getting the ball, or getting some touches here the next couple of weeks. So Dylan Sampson and Quinshon Judkins is probably two guys you could probably add without a problem. And one other guy I want to just bring to everybody's attention. Maybe it's not this week, maybe it's not next week. And I see him out there on a lot of the waivers, or a lot of he's not signed, and he's only on 40% of some rosters. And it's looking like San Fran's pretty beat up. They lost Kittle. Kittle's going to be out 3 to 5 weeks. Purdy, I don't know yet. It hasn't come back yet on what he's going to do. But by week 5 or 6, like I said, it might be a little bit early to start thinking about adding this guy now. But like I said, he's only rostered on 40% of the team is Brandon Ayuk. Ayuk's going to come back. It might be time now to jump on this guy before a lot of your league mates realize that he's still sitting out there. you put him on the other side of Purcell.
That's right.
Purdy comes back. You know what I mean? San Fran's going to be running on all cylinders. Once Kittle comes back too. So, it might be a little stretch early, but Ayuk might be somebody you might want to think about rostering.
I totally agree with that. And when I go through the the free agent listings and I see that, it's like this guy's coming back. You know what he brings to the table. I mean, it's going to take him a few weeks, obviously, to get back in the groove. But man, if you're mid-season and you're looking to make that playoff run and you have this guy stashed, I think that's a great point, Ralph. I would definitely want him on the bench and ready to go.
And speaking of ads, how about Mr. Ageless Keenan Allen, huh?
Amazing. I was going to say that. I mean, Keenan Allen the guy runs precise routes. Justin Herbert was all over that. I mean, I thought the way that offense clicked, and having Keenan back, you could tell the guy's happy. Where
seems
he's
like
at.
seems like he never left the Chargers, huh?
That's
He
right. That's
steps
right.
away, steps right back in, and he's a target monster. Now here's the deal. I expect the Chargers to throw a little bit more this year than they did last year. They have some nice weapons with your boy Ladd on your team, which is on your Keepers League, and who's the other receiver? Johnson.
Johnson.
Quinshon Johnson with the 2 touchdowns this week. He was on fire, last year too. They got plenty of weapons there. But Keenan Allen looks to be like a target guy. For the old veteran sitting on the waiver wire this week, everybody, maybe spend a point or two on Allen.
If he's out there, grab him up. He's always going to be that target guy. I mean, if he gets 10, 12 targets a game, which he does, that's a guy you want. I mean, even if he catches 6, and he's a hawk.
If you're in a PPR or half PPR league, if you're getting a point for every reception, I mean, if the guy gets 7, 8 receptions, you're already at 7 points. You're already ahead of the game. That's one thing that people always fail to realize in fantasy. It's not always about that big. Everybody wants that big home run guy. Everybody wants that big, long 80-yard touchdown from Chase. But a lot of your guys, if you're in a PPR league, you're going to guys to get your receptions. You want to look at the guys that are going to get 7, 8, 9 targets a game and maybe have 6, 7 catches. And if they get a touchdown on top of that, all those other points, I mean, it's a bonus for you. Look for your target monsters.
And when you're looking at the waiver wire too, always look at targets. If you see a guy the week before, all of a sudden he has 7, 8 targets and you start seeing some consistency, that's the guy you want to go with. I mean, if you get him, you're going to get him low end, it's worth it. If a quarterback's looking at him, obviously there's a trust, built there. So grab him up if you see the targets. That's one of the key indicators of somebody that you want to pick up.
It's about being on top of all the other people in your league too. So grab them up before they do. Anybody else out there? If there's any other further questions, we got another minute here. What's your plans this week, John?
Doing some fishing. I'll be fishing on Saturday and watching football all day Sunday, man. So it's like a week that puts a big grin on my face.
What's your predictions for the Steelers this weekend?
I think it's going to be a little tougher this week. I don't think you're going to see a 34-point effort. I think you're going to see a little bit lower scoring game. Seattle was really flat last week against the Niners. Let's take a look at what's going to come in here. I think it's going to be a challenge. I think the defense is going to play a lot tougher, though. I mean, those guys got smacked around pretty badly last week, and they carry a chip on their shoulder. So, yeah, I think a Pittsburgh win, but I think it's going to be maybe like a 20-17 game, something like that.
I think I probably have to agree with you. The one I'm kind of curious though to see if Caleb Johnson gets in there, gets a couple more, gets a few runs in.
I agree.
I have him on a few teams. I'm just not a Warren fan, but we'll see. We'll see what the what Tomlin has cooked up this week for our Steelers. So.
That's the key right there, man. You need to start these young guys every once in a while. I mean, put some speed in there, put some put some young talent in there and see what we got. Use all your weapons, and that's what he doesn't do.
I agree. I agree with that. That's the biggest problem is, these young guys, you got to get them in there. But
Chrissy says we're decorating on Sunday. That's Halloween.
Oh man,
she's gearing for Halloween. So that
no
means
football. No football for you, man.
That means Bengal colors going up on the wall.
Man, I didn't even think about that. I'll have to wear my Chase jersey next week.
That's right. Right.
But we are over our time, football fans. John, again, thank you very much for joining us. We'd like to, again, our sponsor, Gorman's Pub, right down on Route 51 in Brentwood. Go down and have a drink. Tell them Ralph sent you. John, always a pleasure. I guess we'll do this again next week. And good luck on your week 2 fantasy lineups, people.